Hi, Rick Harsh. Finished with Craig McDonald's Head Games. Uh, and I gave a pre-review and then an endorsement after 9 pages. So now I'm going to do the full review, but I think I owe it to anybody who ordered the book to explain why it only took 9 pages for me to endorse the book. Well, first of all, when you have a book that on the back it says this: when Hector Lassiter, he's our hero, uh, and he's not a classic private eye. He's actually a writer of crime fiction in the 50s, 40s, 30s. I think he started in 25. So the main character is of the crime writer Craig McDonald is the crime writer Hector Lassiter. Um, when he recovers the stolen skull of Mexican folk hero Pancho Villa, he becomes the target of competing fraternities, literally fraternities in the sense of skull and bones, Mexican bandits and U.S. intelligence services, skull and bones and other competing fraternities. Um, Skull and Bones, is the Bush fraternity, and you hear about it. And you know, this book includes Prescott Bush, Poppy's Papa, who was also a Poppy. And then the Breakneck Chase. Now, Breakneck Chase would never sell me. Even in the movie Bullet, the classic chase scene, it's great. But I watch that for the clipped, quiet acting of Steve McQueen. The Breakneck Chase extends across 1957 to 1970 America. That's a little misleading because most of the book is actually taking place in 1957, but there's a reason that it does go on. From the cantinas of old Mexico to the Venice, California set of, get this, Orson Welles' noir classic Touch of Evil, to the sanctum sanctorum of Yale's infamous Skull and Bones Society. Now, when you read something like that, if you're like me, you think, okay, either this is pandering tripe, or it better have some gravitas that allows it to do that. The funny thing is that I have to say, I have to digress here a little bit. It's to a point, but as a writer myself, who writes a variety of different things and different comic styles, and not always comic, but I remember the first time that someone said I was a courageous writer. And, it just struck me as just so silly. I was at the writer's workshop at the time, and I think I've mentioned this before in a review, but, I was thinking, well, how asinine. Don't those people know how lucky we are if we're paid to be there? They're like, I had a short job, a easy job. I would teach 3 classes a year in writing and speaking, and then I got a free ride. So I had 2 years of no real work. Teaching is fun; it's not real work, and I got to write. I had time to write. I mean, this was like, a dream. And so I'm sitting alone at my typewriter, and writing what I want to write. Where is the fucking challenge? Courage? Fuck off. And yet, I have to say that this guy's got balls. I won't say he's got courage. I say he's got balls. And I'll get to more of that, of why, later. But the first thing he had to do for me, aside from write well enough, and he exceeds that by a great great deal. I mean, he writes in the noir or hard-boiled style, but a lot of people do, and I want a little extra. And one thing that sold me in the first few pages was the little bit of extra included, some liberal swearing, you know, fucking God, I don't know where did I mark a? Oh yeah, you describe someone as one world-class sociopath and first-rate cocksucker. Okay, that was on page 6. But more important in these first pages, I'd already seen from the opening, which I believe was, probably something, that there's a lot behind McDonald's choice for this paragraph, and I won't go into that too much, but I read it in the first review. But basically, every word matters in hard-boiled writing. You can't get lazy. And, I mean, of course, okay, here's a paragraph. I took a swig of bad tequila, winced, and reached across the table, flipping the corners of the Indian rug up and over the severed head. Now, there's not a lot you can do with a sentence like that, but swig is that's fine. Swig is a good word. Uh, a swig of tequila, a swig of bad tequila. Add the bad, just give it, don't go overboard. Winced, good, good. That you've got an action in one word. Reached across the table, flipping it's simple. When it's simple, leave it simple. You don't have to, if he's got a broken arm, you could add something. But he didn't. So reached across the table, flipping the corners of the Indian rug up and over the severed head. It's delivered with economy, which is important sometimes in hard-boiled writing, but also with, two words that you might three words: swig, bad, and winced. And I don't normally go like this through a book and when I review it. But the reason I'm doing it is because I want to explain why it took only 9 pages. Now, the other thing is, if you're going to have Pancho Villa in a novel, if his head is in the novel, I'm thinking, well, let's find out more about this. I had a suspicion that the head was actually stolen, that was a historical event. And it was. And on page 6, we get some good history about Pancho Villa, his head, the Pershing punitive expedition into Mexico, and not dull to someone who doesn't like. Well, if it's dull to someone, it's their fault, not his. And you get Pancho Villa's last recorded words, which I suspect are quite accurate, because he's done his research. You find out he's done his research. If you know anything about Pancho Villa, you know he's done his research. And that also helped. And then you get a bunch of characters are introduced. I don't have any rules about that, but you can see that, he's the first character that needs a little time here. I'm not sure if he eventually gets plenty of play and is well described, but we'll get into that. So that by page 9, I thought, this guy's good, very good at the hard boiled. Listen to this. Just you won't know the context, but maybe as some kind of morbid recompense. So he's dealing with you on an adult level. You know, he's not worried about using the collocation morbid recompense. So he's treating me like an adult, which I like. But then we get to page 10, and this is how the review is going to go from here on. I'm going to see what I underlined and see if I can remember why. Okay, a fight ensues. Federales bust into the cantina. Wade broke his chair across the face of another of the feds. The chair was hewn from mesquite wood. Really tough stuff. The details, and exotic details in some cases. I like that. The Mexican's arms flew wide, spastic like, someone who was suddenly killed. And then when they got out of there, after, coming out ahead, they lost one, but he's not going to be part of the novel, so fuck him. We crashed through the back window, duffel bag first, to take the dusty glass. Bud was hard on my heels, toting the impaled Federale's shotgun. Great. Good description, the bag, you see that? But then I sent him back in for my half-empty tequila bottle. Well, that's our man, William Holden. We don't know for sure if he looks like William Holden. It's not, it turns out it's not accidental that this may or may not be William Holden. But that's something that, I'll leave at this point. He also talked about torture techniques. And one of them, I believe it's in the first page. Yeah. Page 4, south of the border, they crucified people on still standing telegraph poles. They'd slice off the bottoms of your feet and set you out a few miles in the desert. Things that, happened to you in Mexico when you thought you were going to have a good day. Or, and this is key, and new to me, probably true. In the rainy season, maybe they'd just stake you out over a spiky maguey plant. Those suckers are hard and sharp, and they grow several inches in the night. Great torture. We all know about burying a guy up to the head, honey, and ants. But I didn't know about the maguey plant. That's fantastic. There's no other term for it but dusk to dawn impalement. That was part of what won me over. So, okay, so the what takes balls is to include a character in your story who is in the time of the novel, and therefore includes characters in the novel that are historical figures, and to have it come off naturally and to have it make sense. In one case, it's pure noir genius. We'll talk about noir another time. Is this book noir or hard-boiled? It's hard-boiled. Is it noir? Well, it's not important for this review. He ends up going to the set of Touch of Evil. Orson Welles is one of his friends. They're not getting along anymore. Just like him and another one of his friends, who doesn't appear in the novel but is all around it, and that's Ernest Hemingway. He's also on the outs with Ernest Hemingway. Well, in Touch of Evil, Marlene Dietrich was famously cast as a Mexican gypsy type fortune teller, and Orson Welles was famously fat. And here we find out that at that time he was going to fat, but they had to make him fatter for the role. It's really, if you haven't seen Touch of Evil, I got this ticking in my brain. There's a reference for you. And if you want to know that reference, you don't have to go very far into the movie. But it's fucking fantastic. It's a movie that you mock because Charlton Heston plays a Mexican. But it is one of the all-time great noir films, nonetheless. And that we'll also get into later, but Mercedes McCambridge is just fucking excellent in this film. He didn't mention her in the book, so he didn't have to deal with Mercedes McCambridge. But Marlene Dietrich and Orson Welles are in the book, and they do have parts. And that's what takes balls, because you've got to do that well. William Bowman did a take on Shostakovich in Europe Central, and that's the one fiction work of Bowman that really captured me. And I love Shostakovich. I've read a lot about him, and he nailed Shostakovich. And the difference here is that no one person has that large a role other than Hector Lasseter, and but he's done his work early on to make you trust. You don't have to look up everything to find out if this or that fact, perhaps, is true. You believe it is true. He has won you over to the point that if he tells you something you didn't know about either one of those two people, you're just going to believe him and you're going to go along with it. So I'm leafing through to see what I marked, and I'm finding not much in the early pages, but on page 34 I finally found something. And this is, what do I want from this book? At this point, I'm happy. I'm going to get an adult, good, very good to good, good to great, hard-boiled writer. And what can he do to make me even happier? Well, he can be a little Chandler-esque. And sometimes it doesn't take a lot. One thing Chandler will do is he'll provide really long descriptions of things here and there, and he's got a certain style to it. And when he does it, it's incomparable, especially in the crime genre. But here you have, I underlined sporting a brand new face. Chandler would do something like that, somebody who gets hit once or twice in the face by Lasseter. He fell to the floor, already out cold and sporting a brand new face. Chandler might do something like that. It's just a little touch, but I'm leading to a place where he provides a Chandlerian description, which means an extensive one that he takes his time on. This is another good one. I'm not going to call everything Chandlerian, but just he's describing Orson Welles. And I won't give you the whole one, but he was stuffed into a rumpled tan suit that a family of five could live in and never cross paths. And a family of five could live in it is pretty good, But then you add that extra one, and never cross paths. That's wonderful. It's a wonderful. These are like little. You're already enjoying the book. You're caught up in the action. You like the dissolute character. He's old, which when you're writing a hard-boiled book, starting with a 57-year-old guy, he's diabetic and he doesn't know it. So he's, it's not the character for someone who wants quick thrills and a quick read and no thinking. One of the um, I should mention that I read the epigraph yesterday, and I wondered, was Emil Holmdahl, the guy who talked about, 50 years ago you could do this, and this, and the world has gone to hell. Emil L. Holmdahl, I thought, this guy's really good because he made this guy up. He didn't. Holmdahl existed. I didn't look that up, though. He acknowledged a book that told him something about Holmdahl. So, trust me, I got a couple more things to say that are good for me. I'll have fun, whether or not you do. If you're not having fun, whoa, they're shooting at me while I'm doing the review. How meta. Is this book meta? No, that's for the meta reviewer to decide. Of course it is. I mean, in the middle of a hard-boiled book, he goes to the set of Touch of Evil. That's brilliant. What a brilliant move. And more to come. This is, a little intelligent character stuff. He's met, of course, potential femme fatale. You don't know if she's going to be a femme fatale or just a mistake or someone who gets killed or someone that a 57-year-old man who makes a lot of bad decisions, has a bad past, etc. You don't know what's going to happen, but a beautiful Mexican woman with a daughter that she needs to take care of, who's staying with a relative while she works on the set of Touch of Evil and tends to the needs of, and we're not sure to what degree, of Marlene Dietrich. There's there are things in here that you'll have to figure out, which is, always good. It's not, some telegraphing is involved, but intelligently so. I mean, like there's something that happens in the first couple pages that suggests something's about to happen by the end of the chapter. It's not clumsy, but, if you're reading closely, or even just naturally, you don't forget. It's implanted. Something does happen, but it's not awkward and shoved down your fucking throat either. So, the Mexican woman says to him, Hector, do you deliberately make a mess of your life just to keep yourself interested? Now, that's a really good character observation. You already know it because you've read up to here, but this underscores it, and you see a very perceptive character noticing something in him, and it's already you're into existential territory as well, and it makes the character that much more interesting because does he deliberately make a mess of his life? Well, we need to know more about him, and apparently we're going to find out with novels that go back in time. I think that's how it has to work, from what I see. I don't know. Okay. I won't tell you that. But I'm already at 23 minutes, but fuck it. I'm going to keep going because I've already said read the book, and I did, and I read it, at a relatively slow pace, but constantly because I was under the hot sun yesterday for 4 or 5 hours, but reading this. Hector, do you deliberately make a mess of your life? Or just to keep yourself interested? Well, there's a lot to that, and in the book and elsewhere. So, I think I've covered a lot of what I really like, but, of course, it's the book's almost 300 pages, and I was thinking by 120, okay, how is this going to go? Because I think we're, nearly done. Well, there's some really fun stuff in here. He's a writer. Writers get reviewed. This was all about the reviewer preening and prancing and playing to his presumed reader. Somebody's given him a bad review. And making a name for himself by tearing down a bigger man, a real writer. He's calling himself a real writer. But that's the character doing that. And you kind of, you believe him to a degree. I mean, he will not accept that he's a great writer. But, he's not some pissant you can treat the way Lee G. Todd treats him. My book was a means to some twisted end whose true nature was known only to Lee and me, but it made my blood boil. Here he quotes the reviewer. Lassiter can usually be counted on to move matters along in pulpy and peppy fashion. Then Lassiter says, peppy? But here he stalls out as he partners his aging, bitter gringo with a Mexican pinup who couldn't exist outside of a narcissistic old crime writer's fetid imagination. Bad review. Mr. Lee G. Todd. My descriptions of La Frontera bogged down the action and the perceived romance derailed my, quote, otherwise competent if not particularly original mystery story. He wrote that Chapter 9 smacked of a sense of a writer clearly trying to write above himself. Then he writes, the diseased bastard said I should take lessons in mystery writing from Dame Quartermain. Mystery writing? I've never written a mystery in my life. I'm a crime writer. Lee said the clipped and hyper-stylized prose style that I'd employed kept getting between, there's quotes in here, getting between him and the story. He said that my prose style kept reminding him that he was reading a book. Huh? Me? I'm always aware I'm reading a book when I'm, reading a book. And then the rest of that little digression in the book is, let me just say, it's satisfying. It's fun. Now we're going to get to the Chandler-worthy. I won't call it Chandler-esque. Chandler-worthy character description. We've heard about Emil Holmdahl throughout the book. Get a look at Emil Holmdahl. A crisply pressed, starched, checkered shirt, buttoned all the way up and accented with a black and silver bolero tie, lizard skin boots, and cocky jodhpurs. He cinched those crazy pants with a hand-tooled, turquoise-studded belt and carried a Stetson in his calloused hand. Now, about the jodhpurs. Faye Dunaway is gorgeous in Chinatown, but there's one scene where she's wearing jodhpurs, bareback. And so, just throwing it, he cinched those crazy pants. At least he doesn't just leave us to say, jodhpurs. The character reacts like, the fuck are you wearing, man? And so his shock of full white hair was brushed neatly back from a high forehead. After all the years and the picaresque living Emil had packed in since I'd known him, I expected him to look older. We shook hands. The old man had a good grip on him. Not for the first time. He's not done with the description. This is worthy of Chandler. Not for the first time I wondered if Emil suffered from a mild strain of dwarfism. He'd always had a horse face and arms too long for his body. Age had exaggerated his asymmetry. Emil's shoulders were now narrow and sloped, and his torso seemed even more strangely stunted. What height he had always seemed to reside between his waist and knees. His lower legs were too short, and the brown cowhide boots he affected now didn't make him look much longer. Though I suspected he thought they did. no other way to justify wearing those things out in L.A. in 1957. He looked like a George Rosen pulp magazine cover in those damn boots. I don't know what a George. I didn't look it up, but you get the drift. In those damn boots, whose heels probably gave him an extra inch and yet got him nowhere near proportional. Holmdahl had a few years on me, but I sensed, maybe that morning anyway, I looked older, more tired. That is worthy of Chandler. You're one thing. A little hint about the upcoming noir. Great noir must have secondary characters that are interesting to bizarre. Think Peter Lorre. You gotta have the atmosphere, and that's provided in large part by the other characters. And so, the femme fatale can be all kinds of things, but she can't be your bizarre character. She can be bizarre, but you got to have another couple of people. You got to have some atmosphere. So, now I told you about the maguey plant. Well, there are rules in writing that all need to be thrown away. One of them is when you mention a gun, it better appear, even that is bullshit. But if you mention a maguey plant torture, that's already teaching me something and I'm fascinated. But if in the course of the book you use that, I ain't going to complain. But I will complain about one thing. His history seems to be good. And I'm a fan of Pancho Villa. But I'm much more a fan of Emiliano Zapata. And so we got a character spread-eagled face down over a massive maguey plant. And they put rocks on his back to make sure that, he's nice and snug against the spines. That, I don't remember if it rained that night or not, or if it was going to, but, he's, even if it doesn't rain, you're tied to, rest on a plant. If it doesn't rain, then the maguey plant won't go up. So you best go down if you're going to be tortured. So they're putting rocks on him, But here's what it was that pissed me off. They say Emiliano Zapata invented it. My man Zapata? I don't like that. Maybe true, though. And probably there is some basis to that. Or maybe he just felt like, since we're talking about the Mexican Revolution, we gotta throw in Emiliano somewhere. But I object, Your Honor. Are you playing Head Games with me? Head Games is that kind of title, by the way. I had a lot of time in the car alone driving back up to San Diego. Can't say I enjoyed the company. Now, that's not original entirely, but it is so classic a line or a sentiment that is often put one way or another that, you appreciate the nod to Chandler and, other ne'er-do-wells. Now, I mentioned balls and courage. No, it doesn't take courage. What takes balls is, the reason it takes balls to do things like put the real characters in is because there's so many ways to go wrong. And, you trust the writers not doing it to pander. Okay, we trust that now. Immediately we trusted that. It took 2 pages for me to say, yeah, this guy's, that's his game. And, but he's got to do it well. Oh, he's doing it well. But then, this is, by page 201, he has got to have you won over for you to tolerate this. this might be a spoiler, but it's not one of the great spoilers, so I'm going to just read it, and I apologize if I've spoiled. Here's a secret for you. Next time that you watch Touch of Evil, carefully study those vignettes with Orson and Marlena. If you got a good eye on you, you'll notice something. After an establishing shot in their very first scene, they are never again in frame together. When Marlena says her lines to Hank Quinlan, that's who Orson Welles plays, that's me she's talking to. He put himself in the movie. I love it. I just love it because if it's done in an absurd way in an absurdist book, that's one thing. But this is not an absurdist book. It has its funny moments, but it's not absurdist. And so that that he got away with that he gets away with that, is just another thing to tip your hat to if you're wearing a hat. I don't think the character wears a hat. I was going to wear a noirish hat for this, and then I thought, well, I don't know. I'm comfortable as I am. I'm not even wearing pants. I'm wearing a lungi, in South Indian wear. I haven't been up for that long. I'm having my coffee, and I decided to review this. I see now there are other things that are unexpected in the book, and I think that it's best for you to come across them on your own. I could talk about them, and they could further describe moves that McDonald makes. But I think that I've already established that I can go on like a blowhard, and I hope that I say enough things to hold your interest, because Bill Holden is a great character. I love William Holden. And if next time I read, and I am going to read the next recommended, I'll buy it. I swear. Svetlana, I want to buy one. The next one I buy, I want it to be the right one, so I'll ask for advice. But I will buy it, and my Hector Lassiter is going to look like William Holden. Hemingway, well, didn't appear, but is in the novel, runs through the novel, which is not to say it's entirely Hemingway-esque, but it really gives Hector a really great background. And by giving Hector a great background, I'm going. This is extra time. By giving Hector a great background, you're getting a great background. You're getting history in this book. Probably history that a lot of young readers don't know. And I believe you're getting it all accurate. I ain't going to do any fact-checking on a guy who tells me about the Magway plant after telling me a few things I already did know about the Pershing expedition and so on. So I think you can trust this guy. And when he doesn't tell you the truth, if he tricks you, well, head games. This has the highest recommendation I've given since. I'm not going to make comparisons. They don't compare, but Ian McNamee of Northern Ireland and David Peace of Central England are the two best crime writers working today. They're better than what's his name? Our man. We got a guy in the U.S. who's not bad. What's his name? This is a mental breakdown, but I'm going to take the time to indulge myself. Elroy. They're better than Elroy. And this is, at the very least, as good as the best Elroy. And by that, I'm not sure if it's White Jazz or L.A. Confidential. I'm not sure. But the best Elroy Los Angeles crime. It may be even better for the fact that it's dead on in more ways, and the writing is smart, and you notice I didn't. Yeah, there is a lot of action, but it's a crime novel, so there's going to be, even if it's a procedural, it's got enough action. This isn't a procedural, by the way, but great piece of work, great introduction to a new crime writer for me, who I will probably read thoroughly, and and give a cumulative review at the end. And if this is 40 minutes, that cumulative review might go on for, God, as long as 5 or 10.